everyone, today we're going to talk about the Geely Beta T1. The name might sound unfamiliar, but the car itself is quite familiar. The Geely Beta T1 is part of a consolidation of Geely's model names, so it's now part of the Beta series. Let's take a look at the changes. In terms of overall styling, the front end remains unchanged. I think the design is still very stylish and has a great look, right? The small embellishments inside the continuous light strip give the whole car a very three-dimensional feel. This kind of look is very attractive in its price range. What's changed this time? The dimensions have changed. The rear has undergone some significant adjustments. The body length has increased by about 30 to 40 millimeters. The main reason for this change is the rear design. The overall side profile remains unchanged. It still maintains that rounded and full design, and the 2.77-meter wheelbase is quite large for its price range and class. Actually, if you're looking at cars in the 60,000 to 100,000 yuan price range, you can buy many similar electric vehicles for commuting, but this one definitely has a significant advantage in size. We've experienced it before, right? Now, let's talk about the rear. The biggest change this time is in the overall design. It looks more rounded and full. The taillights are the most noticeable change. These taillights echo the current headlights. Many friends said that the T1's taillights were rather straight and didn't match the front style. Well, this time the style is unified, right? And the taillights have many small decorative details, giving them a three-dimensional feel when lit. These taillights will definitely make you stand out on the road, especially at night. So, the entire rear design has been adjusted. The rear is now fuller and rounder. The spoiler has been enlarged, and the internal structure has been slightly adjusted. The lower bumper has been redesigned to give the rear a more sporty look. No problem. Let's talk about the trunk space. The Beta T will have 350 km and 450 km range versions. The electric trunk is standard on the 450 km version, making daily operation much simpler and more convenient. It's even suitable for the lady of the house. The trunk is spacious enough. Don't let the small size of the car fool you. The trunk is quite large, and there's even a considerable depth under the partition. See, there's a carry-on suitcase there right now. A 2-inch carry-on suitcase. After I put it in, the cover can be adjusted for height. See, it fits perfectly in this position, further increasing the trunk storage capacity. This kind of storage capacity is very rare in this class. It's large and spacious enough. Also, the backrests of my rear seats can be folded down in sections. For example, if I'm carrying a lot of stuff, I can fold down the rear seats. Let's see, folding down the right half. Hey, you can see that the slope is very gentle after hitting the ground, which makes it much easier for me to pull larger and longer items. This kind of expandability is very practical for this car, especially for family use. Sometimes you really need to pull large items, like when you're shopping at IKEA, right? That's where its practicality really shines. Moving inside, the overall design remains unchanged, but many details have been adjusted. First, the 15.6-inch screen was standard across the entire range in the previous model, and it certainly won't change this time. It's large enough and very convenient to use. But what's different this time? For example, the 450 km version now comes standard with a 540-degree panoramic camera. Essentially, there's no distinction between high and low trims. As long as you buy the 450 km range version, you'll have a 540-degree panoramic camera, making parking much easier for me, right? Also, the floor platform has been adjusted here. Previously, there was no wireless charging. Now, wireless charging has been added, and the entire platform design has been adjusted to allow for a tilted position for easier phone use. The lower compartment is also larger. Of course, there's a USB port, but there's also a Type-C recess next to it. It hasn't been added yet, has it? It should be added. And the door panels have undergone some minor color adjustments to make the LED effect more pronounced, all to enhance the visual appeal. The overall interior design and materials are quite good for this price range. The two cup holders and the large, wide, and deep center armrest are very practical. The seats are quite comfortable overall. At this price point, you can't expect too much, right? Of course, you'll want various car infotainment features, like voice control. Look at these seats. The front seats have heating and ventilation, which means our filming car is definitely a high-spec model, probably under 100,000 yuan. I think if you want a 450 kilometers range, such a large size, plus features like a 540 degrees panoramic camera and ventilated front seats, this car is quite suitable for under 100,000 yuan. Oh, and this time we added a sentry mode, so if you get a minor scratch while parked outside, the dual screen mode means you don't have to worry. My car didn't have this mode before, and if it got scratched, I couldn't find the person who did it, so this feature is very practical. Moving to the back seats, let's talk about the space. I'm 180 centimeters tall, and this is my driver's seat. Look at the legroom, there's more than 2 fists worth. For a small car like this, the space is definitely spacious enough. The 2.77 wheelbase isn't just for show. Then, the floor is flat and spacious enough that I think it's relatively easy for 5 people to sit in this car. Regarding the rear features, there are rear air vents and a USB-C port, right? I think this level of configuration is acceptable, because you can't expect too much at this price point. However, I'd like to suggest adding armrests to the rear seats, with cup holders on them, to make things more convenient for rear passengers. I really hope this can be added. There's also a large panoramic sunroof with excellent lighting, and it has a physical sunshade. This model is designed with practicality in mind. You know, no matter how much you block out the light, a sunroof gets very hot after being exposed to the sun. So, a sunroof provides excellent light and heat insulation. Finally, regarding power and range. Actually, the 450 km range version has an electric motor. The power has also been increased to 95 kilowatts. Now, whether it's the 350 km or 450 km range, the motor power is the same. So, the power is definitely not a problem. Even though it was 70 kilowatts before, it was still fine. It's just that the old 320 km version had a power output of 95 kilowatts, and the 425 km version had a power output of 70 kilowatts. Now, it's been directly leveled out to 95 kilowatts. I think this will make the power better for our daily driving, right? As for the overall range, as I just mentioned, it has been improved. Now there are 2 options, 350 km and 450 km. I suggest you consider the 450 km option. Because for daily driving, whether it's city driving or occasional short long distances, a longer range is quite useful, right? Of course, the range will be significantly reduced in winter, so the 450 km option will be more practical. Also, since it uses a heat pump air conditioner, the energy consumption will be appropriately reduced. I was looking at the details inside, and here it is. This is the air conditioner blower. And how come I changed the filter? You can change it through this. Open this cover, and you can see you can change the filter here. This makes everyday car replacement much easier. You don't need to go to a 4S shop or remove the armrest box. So I think this design is particularly practical. For many people with good DIY skills, this design is definitely worth praising. The launch of the T1 spare tire addresses many of the points previously complained about by netizens. Secondly, it enriches the vehicle's features, extends the range, and increases the motor power. I think it's still a very competitive family car in the 60,000 to 100,000 yuan price range. If you have a limited budget for family commuting and want more features, I recommend you take a look. I suggest buying the 450 km version. Okay? That concludes our static review of the Gefox spare tire. What other new cars would you like to see? Leave a comment below. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.